So this might be based a little bit more on Hoyoverse, but this still has applications to other game companies and supporting other games. I wanted to react to this with you guys and kind of talk about it with you. So let's go ahead and see from Glaive Keo, and I'll be linking the video obviously, how Hoyoverse exploits their biggest creators, the loyalty illusion.
One of Japan's biggest gaming content creators just exposed Hoyoverse for their treatment of official creators. And let me tell you, it's not pretty. Nerumero isn't just any content creator. With over 550,000 subscribers, he is one of the biggest names in the Japanese gaming scene. From the early days of Genshin Impact, he has been a cornerstone of the community, offering gameplay guides, engaging discussions, and humor that brought players together. But despite his undeniable...
That would be the equivalent of going for FGO. That would be the equivalent of like Mist, who now just crusted over 100,000. Congratulations. That would be the equivalent of Mist numbers, or plushie numbers, or back in the day Voice of Saint chords, or Shotgun Shogun numbers. It'd be like that. But congrats to Mist.
Influence and loyalty, Hoyoverse staff consistently treated him poorly. From dismissive communication to outright ignoring him when he reached out for clarity, the red flags were everywhere. And then came the breaking point. Nerumero was kicked out of the official creator program without any warning, without any explanation.
They just flat out kicked him out.
And that's insane to me. So for me, especially as someone that's trying to go for the content creator program for Hoyoverse specifically, that doesn't bode very well when I'm hearing stuff like this. When I'm hearing things that they will just kick you, they will just remove you for any reason, regardless of whatever that reason is. I'm not a fan of that, personally. And especially with someone that big. We're talking someone with almost 600,000 subscribers in Japan, and one of the voices of the Japan community for Genshin. They just literally kicked him out. That's right, Dwayne does deserve to cry at Kogani, 100%. That is not fair.
No word, no nothing at all.
Imagine pouring your heart into something for years, only to be cast aside without even a conversation. It felt like being ghosted by someone you thought you had a strong connection with. Eventually, thanks to community support and a fellow content creator, Nerumero managed to re-enter the program, but even then, things didn't improve. Despite being one of the biggest names in the space, he was repeatedly left out of key events and denied early access privileges.
That's a thought. That's a thought. I know once upon a time, I actually thought that having an early access like server for content creating was actually a good thing. And I really thought more games should do that. But like very recently, we are starting to see the downside of that. If, for example, like we have here, they kicked out one of their biggest creators for who knows what reason why. They kicked them out. And I'm sure the reason is out there if we want to really look into it, but they did not inform him. They just kicked him out. And they basically said, you are now cut off from making content. Because think about it. There are other people who are making Genshin Impact content or Honkai Star Rail content or Zenless Zone Zero content that have access to that early server. And they're going to have a chance to make these videos where people are going to click on them, the algorithm's going to pick them up, and they're it. But after that, if he is kicked out of it, he's no longer on that server, well, guess what? He can no longer take advantage of that. His videos will not be picked up by the algorithm more than likely. He'll be behind the 8 ball. People will probably figure out the strats by now. It is really just it's just not a good look. It's just not good to have like this, privateer club of sorts where only certain content creators can gain access to all this special information. And like, it just pretty much makes it so there can only be a few voices, and these voices are chosen by Hoyoverse, chosen by the company themselves, and no one else can even hope to have any sort of advantages in that regard. We're trying to do like guide content. So I don't know. As fun as that would be, I don't think it's a good idea for other games. And I just don't see Hoyoverse at least getting rid of that. Like they literally are handpicking people to be the mouthpiece for Genshin and all their other games. I don't think they're gonna stop doing that anytime soon. But I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think. If you think FGO will even benefit from that, I don't think so. But what do you think?
That ironically were handed out to similar creators. And then came the moment, the final straw. After streaming Wuthering Waves, Hoyoverse staff immediately reached out to him. Their message was clear: please do not do that. Now legal.
Imagine that. Imagine that, guys. What? Imagine I'm playing Reverse 1999, or I'm playing Arc Knights, and then all of a sudden, Lasangle, this will never happen. Lasangle calls up and say, "Hey, Musaki, we don't want you talking about Reverse 1999. We don't want you playing Reverse 1999. We don't want you doing any of that, please. Could you like not do that? That would be awesome." But legally, I don't think, if he's not under contract, they can't say that, right? So I don't think.
Legally, they couldn't stop him. There was no contract,
no
clause
contract
binding him, but the subtext was obvious. It's either loyalty or exile. And after years of mistreatment, miscommunication, and being sidelined, Nerumero decided to leave the creator program entirely. And for the first time, he spoke out openly, honestly, and without fear.
And that's good. That's a good thing. In all honesty, that's a very good thing. The fact that he just said, you know what, enough's enough. Because think about what they're asking him. They were asking this content creator. They were asking him to, I want you to do everything that you can, like you're underneath the content creator program that you signed, but you didn't sign anything. We're not going to give you any of the benefits whatsoever. So you're not going to get the content creator program. You're not invited to all these other things. You're not getting any sort of kickback whatsoever. None of that stuff is happening, but we still want you to only play Genshin and not talk about Wuthering Waves or even play Wuthering Waves in any capacity. How? Literally, they were threatening him as like, if they didn't say it directly, right? Japanese language, as we know, isn't going to be that direct. They're going to be around with subtext and kind of say, "Hey, no, we would like for you not to talk about that." When really this just says, "Hell no, we don't want you saying shit about Wuthering Waves." I do feel like there's some form of agreement to go into the program, not defend it. Oh well, no, yes, for sure, there's an agreement, but when it comes to something like this, there was nothing signed. Like it's one thing if he actually signed up for the program, but remember they kicked him out. They never really officially brought him back in. So they were pretty much holding him to standards that he was not beholden to. It's like someone treating their best friend to like boyfriend or girlfriend privileges when that's not thing that was decided. So that's basically what I'm saying. It'd be one thing if he signed something, well then of course he gotta do it. He gotta do it thing. He signed it. But he didn't sign no paperwork. There was no formal agreement. They just wanted him to say, "Hey, do this, or you're not gonna be in the career program at all. We're not gonna back you. We're not gonna support you in any capacity." Even though they weren't giving him any of the benefits anyway. Like, what reason outside of loyalty to the company did he have to stay? Especially when they kicked him out without telling him last time.
Isn't just a story about one creator, it's about how it feels to be devalued. Despite years of loyalty and hard work, the exhaustion of giving so much and receiving so little in return, watching others get the opportunities you were denied, despite being on the same stage. And at the end, the relief of finally cutting ties and realizing that you can speak your mind without walking on eggshells. But this isn't just Nerumero's story. It's not just about one content creator being mistreated by a company. It's a symptom of a bigger problem. One that stretches across the entire gacha and gaming industry. At the core of this issue lies a fundamental truth about how Hoyoverse and many large gaming companies operate. They prioritize brand control and public perception above meaningful relationships with their content creators. It's
Yeah, no, we can see this in terms of how Lasengo treats their content creators. And when I mean treat their content creators, where I mean absolutely ignore them and act like they don't exist. There was only one other time back in the day where they did address a content creator, and that is not, I don't have the information to show to confirm that. So I can't really say for sure. But aside from that one incident, there isn't really anything that I can point to at this particular time that I'll be like, hey, Lasengo really is reaching out and caring for their content creators. If anything, they just stopped listening at all in any capacity. And that's like the truth of it. They just don't even care. That's right, Senna. Well, yeah, in fact, when it was DW, correct. Must be nice. Yeah, no, it's the Sony way. Yeah, exactly. It's the Sony way to stay super distant and not actually in contact with the company. And it's it's things like that that we just have to, as a community, be mindful of, in my opinion. But well, let's continue.
It's not about fostering partnerships or mutual growth, it's about maintaining absolute control over their image and maximizing profit while minimizing risk and cost. The relationship between Hoyoverse and its creators often feels transactional, and even then, it's a one-sided transaction where creators shoulder most of the risk while Hoyoverse reaps the rewards. By not having formal contracts with many creators, Hoyoverse avoids any legal or financial responsibility toward them. Creators aren't promised consistent compensation, resources, or even respect. They're just tools for marketing. If something goes wrong, Hoyoverse can cut ties immediately with no strings attached, leaving creators out in the cold. Free advertisement, minimal cost.
That's rough, and that's like the reality of the situation. So even though, like we, at least on the outside look at it, it looks like it's very good to join the Hoyoverse creatorship program. It isn't like this biggest thing where they actually give you any sort of respect, assets, or anything like that. You're pretty much 100% on your own, and they will tell you, hey, as long as you're part of this program, you got to follow this. I didn't know about the no hard contracts, but I do remember seeing in the rounds earlier in the year that there was a contract going around for Hoyoverse that people had to sign. And it was around when the Wuthering Waves was coming out that it was forcing people to be under NDA that they could not talk about Wuthering Waves. And that's really wild. Really wild to me.
Every video, every live stream, every post about their games is free advertising for Hoyoverse. While smaller creators might get some minor perks, big creators like Nerumero, who drive thousands of viewers and sales, are often left with nothing in return. In short, they expect loyalty and effort without offering stability or reward in return. This approach isn't accidental, it's deliberate cost-cutting disguised as community engagement. Now let's address the elephant in the room, Wuthering Waves. Why did Hoyoverse react immediately when Nerumero streamed it? They ghosted him for months when he asked about why he was kicked out of the official creator program. So why did they react so fast to this one? It's because of...
Yeah, I was about to say that, but yeah, it's because literally it's because of the audience he's speaking to. He's speaking to a majority Genshin Impact audience, and they were not afraid. They were not worried about their content creator doing what they wanted. But now that the content creator was actually looking at the Wuthering Waves 2.0 content and looking at how cool all the new stuff is, they're definitely 100% worried about losing people to this update and losing to the competition. So really, really bad, in my opinion. But yeah, let's see what else you got to say.
Audience overlap. Both games are gacha focused, open world RPGs. Hence, the overlap between their audience
you can
is
fly
massive.
Wuthering Waves now?
A creator like Nerumero openly enjoying Wuthering Waves poses a direct threat to Hoyoverse's player retention. And for a massive company like Hoyoverse, acknowledging the competition equals acknowledging weakness. By asking Nerumero to not stream Wuthering Waves, Hoyoverse is essentially admitting that Wuthering Waves is a legitimate competitor. They fear that players, especially those who are already dissatisfied satisfied. We'll see creators having fun with a different game and think, why am I still sticking around here? Instead of improving their relationship with creators or addressing underlying issues in their game, Hoyoverse's response was reactive and defensive. It wasn't about understanding why Nerumero wanted to explore other games, it was about silencing the perceived threat. This kind of reaction isn't about fostering loyalty, it's about controlling the narrative and maintaining their grip on public perception.
And that's the biggest thing that I wanted y'all to talk about, because this applies more than just Hoyoverse here. This applies definitely more to just Hoyoverse. You can see that in other, just in other content creator spaces. This is a very big deal that I can see definitely carry over to even Fate Grand Order. Honestly, like, this is something that you can definitely see to where they don't really talk to us. It's very much a top-down type of thing where we just get the orders from on high, we kind of do whatever they say, and if we don't, we're going to get struck down on our channel for using the music that they were definitely okay with. Yeah, no, that way you control, exactly, if you control the people who are delivering the message, you can control what the masses has to say. But the biggest thing I wanted y'all to know, and just thinking about this, for those people who have only really played Fate Grand Order, or played Fate Grand Order and then decide to play another gacha game, I wanted you to kind of like, when you played that other gacha game, how did you feel? Did it feel like everything that you knew was like that your whole expansion was broadened by the experience? Like your eyes were open to ways of doing things, different ways of doing things. I know that when I played another gacha game, and I did this a lot early on, like when I was with Shotgun Shogun, we would just play gacha games, whatever. So I kind of already had this even since the inception, and some of y'all will remember that. Like when Don Machi had their gacha game, we tried that. Azure Lane had their gacha game, we tried that. But over time, as I tried different gacha games, I started to see a little bit more about how they handle certain systems, how they handle talking to their community, and I started comparing that to FGO over time. This wasn't something that was like a long time coming, it just kind of happened over time, but the seeds were definitely planted, and if you have only been playing FGO for a while, I would definitely recommend trying another gacha game. Actually trying another game in general. Like, playing other games, aside from gacha, is healthy. I definitely recommend doing that. But if you just have to have yourself some gacha games, I definitely try something else. And then come back to Fate Grand Order, see if it makes you feel the same way. I definitely recommend that.
Here's the harsh reality. Hoyoverse wants creators to be loyal, but refuses to be loyal in return. They expect creators to stick by their side, promoting their game, and keep their audiences engaged, even if it comes at a personal or financial cost to the creator. But when creators need support, resources, or even just basic respect, they are often met with silence or dismissal. True partnerships are built on trust and mutual benefit, but Hoyoverse...
And I will say, too, just a small bit, I am a Tectone watcher. I've been a Tectone watcher for a very long time. Little bit, I've been following him for a little bit. And I will say this, regardless of how you feel about him, regardless of how you feel about his opinions, the one thing I will say that he is definitely right about is I feel like if a company is willing to cut you or willing to push you away because you are giving critical criticism to their game and or constructive criticism to their game, and they don't like it, that is a sign that that isn't a company that wants authenticity. That goes back to what was said on the chat earlier. They just want control. And he was a sign of this. He put a lot of money into this game. Like, he was definitely like a case study for a whale going all in on a gacha game. And because he said there were just certain things that can be improved, they removed him from the program and blacklisted him for it. Because he dared said something that needs to change and was predatory, and because of his audience, they're like, nah, get him out of there. Regardless how you feel about the guy, that is fucked. And personally, I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He was just saying how the game should be better for the players.
Hoyoverse operates on control. They would rather have a creator who follows their every directive, regardless of whether it aligns with their creative vision, than one who thinks independently. The reason why companies fear creators like Nerumero speaking out is simple. Creators have power. They have platforms, audiences, and credibility. And when those creators start telling the truth, companies lose their ability to control the narrative. This paradox isn't sustainable. Hoyoverse wants unwavering loyalty from their creators, but they refuse to build an environment where that loyalty feels earned or reciprocated. Hoyoverse's treatment of Nerumero is a reflection of a broader strategy. Maximize profit, minimize risk, and control the narrative at any cost. It's not about partnership, it's not about loyalty, it's about control. Now this is where things get messy, because while gaming companies hold significant power over creators, there's another group with almost equal grip on their careers: the audience. In gaming communities, particularly in spaces like Genshin Impact or even Wuthering Waves, there's an almost cult-like loyalty that develops among certain players. Fans become fiercely defensive of not just the game itself, but the company behind it. If you have spent any time in these online spaces, you've seen it firsthand. Someone points out a genuine flaw in the game, and suddenly they're accused of being a hater or a fake fan. A creator criticizes a poor decision made by the developers, and their comment section is just flooded with people telling them to just quit the game if you hate it so much, or let's just play Love in Deep Space, and heaven for...
Yeah, no, sounds very much familiar to something that I've definitely dealt with in the past, for sure. That's definitely something I have quite a bit of experience with, actually, this past year, if y'all recall. I actually did have something to say about just FGO not being able to keep up, and FGO not being able to actually provide meaningful content, and people were not happy about that whatsoever. Right there, this is the video here. People were not happy about this video, and basically when I made that video, I put apparently a target on my head, and both me, Oni, and Quiet 5 were brought down for it. Same thing when we talked about the single pen skills, about the content creating, and all of that. Anytime I had anything slightly remotely negative or constructive criticism to add, if it wasn't in a positive spin like this, where hey, these are some ways you can improve the game, they were not happy about it. And they literally came down on me on it, and I was not too happy about it. Even some people I thought who were like friends actually came down on me, and it was wild that tribalism had hit so far that they were willing to defend the company over their fellow content creators and other members of the community. We say even the smallest remote thing negative or nothing that's just positive about the game. They're to say all this stuff here, this is the stuff that applies to every gacha game, when in actuality it shouldn't really even be this tribalism thing. Who cares about the company? Because the company does not care about you. And I said that earlier in my other video. I mean that. So we don't need to be defending these multi-billion dollar companies. We need to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to make sure they actually don't screw us over, instead of just accepting every single thing that they give us and say, hey, thank you. It's okay to criticize something you love. Not like I'm shitting on it. I don't hate Fate Grand Order. I don't hate any of the games that I critique. I just want them to be better. And as a player of the game, I think it's important to have those discussions without taking things personally, especially on the company's behalf.
A creator dares to play or praise a competing game, because now they are a traitor. For some fans, loving the game becomes synonymous with loving the company. Any criticism, no matter how constructive, is seen as a personal attack. But why does this happen? It comes down to emotional investment. These players have poured time, money, and passion into the game. They have formed friendships, memories, and even parts of their identity around it. So when someone points out a flaw or expresses dissatisfaction, it feels deeply personal, almost like an attack on them. But here's the problem. This behavior doesn't just stay in the comment section, it actively harms creators. Creators are terrified of upsetting their audiences. One wrong move, one poorly received opinion, and suddenly their livelihood is at risk. Imagine being Nerumero. Years of loyalty, years of creating content, and yet the moment he streamed Wuthering Waves, there were people in his community accusing him of betrayal. It's exhausting.
Yeah, very exhausting, and definitely something I already went through. I can 100% relate to this, and like hearing this and seeing this, I can't help but see this as a more extreme version of what I've recently been through, what we, the gurus, have been through all our changes. It feels like people are worried and are scared to make any sort of critique. Otherwise, you upset people. Reddit already doesn't like certain YouTubers as is, at least in the fake Grand Order space. But feels like on Twitter, feels like in those other spaces, you cannot say anything that is negative against Fate. It's just not meant to be. And that has kind of always permeated the space, and I think we're just done. We need to be done with that. We need to just be able to speak our minds about this type of thing. Otherwise, they're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. If you don't stop, if you don't speak up, then they're just going to keep doing what they're doing, and you're just going to keep taking the slop and keep eating the slop over and over and over again. And remember, we weren't even the first ones to be talking about stuff like this. You want to know one of the first people that actually brought up some actual legitimate concerns about Fate Grand Order? You're not gonna know this name. Some of you would, but not all of you would. It's Shogun. Shotgun Shogun. Been saying this stuff for years. Literal years. He has been literally talking about this and was like a pariah, not even a pariah, but literally put on the cross for things that he was actually legitimately right about. And people went down his throat. People attacked him. People accused him of like stuffing down smaller creators at the time. People were actually rallying against him and calling him a bully because he was rightfully pointing out what the company was doing wrong at the time. And he wanted them to do better. But instead, they treated him like he was a threat, like he was a terrorist or a stalker. They would avoid him at panels. They would avoid him at events. He would be blacklisted. He would be followed by Japanese security guards, like specifically. They did not like this guy. And to the point where, like, I really feel like, as someone that know him personally, he got a lot of crap put on him for no reason. No reason whatsoever. And until he just finally said, forget Gacha games. Like, he was trying to cover Epic 7 for a while because he actually felt really connected about it. Now he just says he's done. Because the community really just didn't appreciate that he has something non-positive to say about their precious Fate Grand Order. It's crazy.
Exhausting, it's unfair, and it's deeply unsustainable. The expectation that creators must unconditionally love and defend the game the company they cover is absurd. They are people, not PR spokesmen. And yet these expectations persist, hanging over creators like a sword ready to drop. But there's another layer to this dynamic, one that is perhaps the most sinister of all: the implied threat of financial ruin. When creators dedicate their platform to a single game, when their audience, their growth, and their income become entirely dependent on one title, they fall into an incredibly precarious position. And here's the harsh truth: companies knows this, fans knows this, Hoyoverse knows this. It creates a toxic power dynamic where both parties can essentially say, if you leave this game, your career will die. If you criticize this game, your audience will turn on you. If you play something else, you won't be able to pay your bills. For creators, the fear of stepping out of line becomes paralyzing, even when they know that they're being mistreated. Even when they know they're being taken advantage of, they feel trapped. And this is...
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. I keep using Shogun as an example, but I'll use Voice of Saint Course as an example as well. He decided to try and leave behind Fate and go to Girls Frontline and support that. And not only was he called a traitor for all the things he's done, but his audience dwindled more and more, left him behind, and yeah, the channel just died on the vine. Like, say what you will about the person, the moment someone tries to leave a game that they're known for, the audience does not follow them. They didn't follow Saint Courts, they didn't follow Shogun, they didn't follow anyone. Like, why do you think there's not as many fake Grand Order content creators out right now? It's either they tried and they failed, or they're still doing stuff and it's the same stuff they've always been doing, or they just got tired of it. They just got tired. Like, it takes a lot of luck to be very successful in this space, but also takes a lot of commitment, and also realizing that you cannot just keep yourself in one thing. If you build your entire empire and everything, your community, around one game, around one franchise, if that franchise disappears, there goes everything. And I told you guys I don't want to be like that. So, for sure. Not sure what's happening with FGO, but I am not going down with that ship. And thankfully, you guys are a lovely community, and you're sticking around regardless of what we do. So really appreciate that.
Isn't just about Hoyoverse. It's everywhere. It's the way the gaming industry has conditioned both creators and audiences to believe that loyalty to a single game or a company is the only way to success. Creators are stuck in the middle, walking a tightrope above an audience that can turn on them in an instant, and a company that can discard them without hesitation. It's an impossible position to maintain forever. And yet, so many creators keep walking that road, terrified of what waits for them if they fall. This isn't sustainable. It's not fair. And it's not something we can keep ignoring. At some point, something has to change, because if it doesn't, the cycle will just repeat itself. Every creator will eventually face their own Nerumero moment. And when that happens, we will have to ask ourselves, was this inevitable, or could it have been avoided? After everything we have talked about, the mistreatment of Nerumero, the illusion of official content creator programs, the relentless grip of corporate control, and the unshakable loyalty of certain audiences, the question remains, can this actually change? Will companies like Hoyoverse and others in industry learn to treat their creators with respect, transparency, or fairness, or will they continue to double down on rigid control, prioritizing their bottom line over meaningful partnerships? Change might not come quickly, and it might not come willingly, but as long as creators keep speaking up, and as long as audiences keep supporting them, it can happen. And speaking of audiences, let's talk about you for a second. You, the viewer, hold more power than you realize.
Correct. You do. Every time you interact with any sort of video, anytime you interact, you comment, you like, you share. Heck, even if you dislike it. If you do anything like that, it actually supports us and does a lot. While I'm always super appreciative and always thankful to the people who gift subs or gift memberships or supports us on Patreon or anything like that, or buys our merch, I'm always appreciative of that. Interacting with the video is what's going to keep us going and keep us afloat. That is something that will definitely help us. So I do read all your comments. I see who comments, I see the names, I see the pictures, and I do my best to like and heart and comment to many ones, even the ones I don't really agree with. I always try to have a conversation because it's what I do. I like talking. And you guys are the community, you left a comment, I always say, let's have a discussion. I mean that. I want us to have a discussion about anything, regardless. So remember that. You guys, when you see something, see a video you like just commenting on it helps out a lot, especially for us.
Every time you click on a video, leave a comment, share content, or support a creator directly, you're making a choice. So here's a message for you. Support creators, not corporations. It's the creators who show up every day, who share their passion, their humor, their frustrations, and their joy with you. Loyalty to a game doesn't mean loyalty to the developers. You can love a game's world, you can love a character and its stories without blindly defending the company that made it. Ask questions, stay critical, and don't be afraid to hold companies accountable. At the end of the day, games are supposed to be about fun, creativity, inclusivity, and community. But when corporate greed and control starts overshadowing those values, it's up to the creators and audiences to push back. The relationship between creators and game companies shouldn't feel like walking on a tightrope. It shouldn't feel like creators are one bad day, one wrong tweet, or one stream competitor game away from losing everything they have worked for. Loyalty goes both ways, or at least it should. But as we've seen time and time again, it often doesn't. So whether you're a creator, a viewer, or just someone who loves these games, let Nerumero's story remind you of something important. Creators deserve respect. Audiences deserve transparency. And companies, they need to do better. Because if they don't, the creators and communities they rely on might just start looking elsewhere. And honestly, they should. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting creators who speak up. And most importantly, thank you for caring.
And that's basically what it is. Like, guys, I understand that I'm not a Genshin Impact fan either. The things about Genshin Impact aren't necessarily my style or my bag. I tried Genshin, didn't necessarily like it. But I think the message here carries over very well. It is up to the creators. It is up to the community. It's up to each and every one of us to kind of make sure we hold these companies accountable. And yeah, we can't put these companies on a pedestal. Even Kuro Games, for as great as they are, as good as they are, you can't just be like, let them slide. If something is bad, it's bad. It needs to be called out and supported. Don't say, hey man, it's really sucky that you put all the meta units on one banner and then decide to go all out on those banners. If you have a critique, stick to it. And the community is going to be a little bit harder to do, but as content creators in the space, we have the unique ability to be a voice for the community to help guide a little bit. And while we're not the majority, there are a lot of casual fans out there that just play the game because it's their favorite character they see. They love this character, they love this game, or whatever else. But for those who go online to look, we have a chance to get our voice out there to let people know. And if something's happening and something that a company is doing to the community, I think that needs to be said and it needs to be spoken about. That's all I wanted to talk about, guys. I really appreciate your support. I want to see more React content. You already know what to do. Thank y'all so much for liking and subscribing, commenting, and watching. I'll see you guys next time.